everyone, and welcome to Lipstick on a Rig. Today we're going to be using a DIY chunky yarn beanie pattern to make a messy bun beanie, where you can insert your ponytail or your messy bun in the top of this hole up here. For this project, I'm going to be using 2 skeins of size 4 medium weight acrylic yarn, and I'm just using the same color. And if you want to do that but you only have 1 skein, you can always just divide a skein in half. And if you have a chunky yarn, then you can just use 1 strand rather than 2. And also just keep in mind that this is a great project for scrap yarn because your yarn does not need to be the same size, weight, brand, or type. And I'll also be using a size K or 10.5 crochet hook. So go ahead and grab both ends of your yarn, and for the entire project we are going to treat these like they are 1 strand. So go ahead and attach the yarn to your crochet hook and chain 8. And if you're unfamiliar with any of the stitches used in this pattern, please check the links in the description because I'll have my stitch tutorials listed down there. And once you have your 8 chains in place, go ahead and turn them over so that you can access these back bumps back here. So this is not the V portion of the top of the stitch, but the back bump instead. And you're going to insert your crochet hook into the back bump of the stitch that is directly beside your crochet hook. And then from here we're going to place a slip stitch. And we're just going to continue placing slip stitches in each of these back bumps for the entire row. So when you get done, you should have a total of 8 slip stitches. And when you get to the end of your row, chain 1 and turn your work. So from here we're going to skip our turning chain, and diving right into the back loop only of our next stitch, we're going to place a slip stitch. And we're just going to continue placing slip stitches in our back loops only, going all the way along our row. And when you get to the end of your row, you should have 8 slip stitches. So go ahead and chain 1 and turn your work again. And then we're just going to repeat that last row over and over and over again, placing 1 slip stitch in the back loop only of each stitch in our row. Chaining 1 and then turning our work. And you're going to want to repeat this until this brim reaches your desired length, which for me is going to be around 16 to 18 inches, and that just depends on the size of the head of the person that you're making this for. And once you've gotten this to your desired length, then go ahead and fold your brim over like this. And from here, you just want to make sure that you've ended on the opposite side of your starting tail. So if you haven't, then just go ahead and add or remove a row. And then from here, all we're going to do is just place a slip stitch into corresponding stitches on these 2 edges here. So we're going to be joining the edges with slip stitches. So just make sure that you're inserting your crochet hook up underneath the full stitch on both sides. And then you're just going to draw through for a slip stitch. So you're just going to repeat this process for every stitch in the row, and you should have a total of 8 slip stitches when you're done. And once you've connected your 2 edges together, then turn this inside out just like that. And then from here, we're going to chain 2. So I went ahead and moved my crochet hook and my project around so that I'm looking at it like this. And this is the ridge where we crocheted up. And from here, I just went ahead and sectioned my brim off into 4 equal parts using scrap pieces of yarn to mark those. So what we're going to do is we're going to place 24 crisscross stitches going all the way around our row. And so if you think about it, you're going to want to place 6 crisscross stitches in each of your 4 sections here. So I'm going to quickly show you how to make a crisscross stitch. Once you have your chain 2 in place, all you're going to want to do is place a double crochet in one of your available loops behind your chain 2 stitch. So I'm just going to place mine right here. And that's your first crisscross stitch there. So I'm also going to be working over my tail, and that's just an option that you have if you want to do that. And so from here, you're going to kind of map out where you want to place your next crisscross stitch. So I want to place my crisscross stitch in these 2 loops right here. So that what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip that first loop, and I'm going to yarn over and dive right into that second loop that I want to crochet into. Once you have your double crochet in place there, then you're going to go back to that loop that you skipped and you're going to place a double crochet in it. And so you've just made another crisscross stitch. So go ahead and place 6 crisscross stitches in each of your 4 sections so that you have a total of 24 crisscross stitches. And once you get to the end of your row, it should look like this. So now all we're going to do is just place a slip stitch in the top of our chain 2 stitch, and then we're going to chain 2 again. So this row will be a lot easier because you're actually working in stitches rather than having to place these evenly along your row. So once you have your chain 2 in place, all you're going to want to do is place a double crochet in the stitch behind your chain 2 stitch. Make sure you're not placing this in your slip stitch but in the actual stitch behind it. And that's your first crisscross stitch. So for your next crisscross stitch, you're going to skip the next stitch, which is right here. And note, this is not the one that we've already worked in, but the next one. And then you're going to place a double crochet in that next stitch. And then you're just going to place a double crochet in your skipped stitch right here. And that's going to be your pattern for the whole row. You're just going to place crisscross stitches going all the way along your row. And when you get done, you should have a total of 24 crisscross stitches. And when you get to the end of your row, it should look like this. So now all we're going to do is we're just going to place a slip stitch in the top of our chain 2 stitch again, and then we're going to chain 2. Then we're just going to repeat this row over and over and over again. I went ahead and placed 5 rows of the crisscross stitch, and now it looks like this. And so the decreasing pattern is going to be to place 2 regular crisscross stitches just like normal. And once you have your 2 regular crisscross stitches in place, then we're going to place a decreasing crisscross. So to do that, go ahead and skip 2 stitches, and then we're going to double crochet together stitch 3 and stitch 4. So to do that, we're going to yarn over and skip 2 stitches. Insert our crochet hook up underneath the 3rd and yarn over and pull through. Then up underneath the 4th and yarn over and pull through. Then yarn over and pull through 3 loops, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And from here, we're going to go back to the first skipped stitch, and we're going to place our double crochet there. So from here, you're just going to place 2 more regular crisscross stitches, and then you're going to place a decreasing crisscross. And you're going to follow that pattern going all the way around your row. And when you get to the end of your row, you're just going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 2 and then chain 2 again. And the pattern for this row is going to be to alternate between placing 1 regular crisscross stitch and then 1 decreasing crisscross stitch. So you're just going to start with your regular crisscross stitch and then place a decreasing crisscross. And you're just going to continue following that pattern, alternating between those 2, going all the way around your row. And the pattern for the next row is just going to be to place decreasing crisscross stitches. So I'm going to show you how to place that first one. So once you've placed your slip stitch in the top of that chain 2 stitch, then all you're going to want to do is place a double crochet in the next stitch. And rather than working in this stitch behind your slip stitch, you're going to work in the stitch behind that. So you're going to skip a stitch. And you're just going to place a double crochet in that stitch. And then from here, you're just going to place your decreasing crisscross stitches like normal, going all the way around your row. And at the end of your row, you're just going to want to place a slip stitch in the top of your double crochet stitch. And as you can see here, our hole is very small, so we're just going to cut and tie off our yarn. And I'm just going to insert this tail inside of my beanie, and then I'm going to just hide it in these stitches on the inside of the beanie. Please let me know in the comments below if you experienced any issues while you were making this, and I will do my best to help you out. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, Lipstick on a Rig. Thank you so much for working with me, and I hope you have a wonderful, awesome day.